Okay, this episode of the George Poulos Podcast is brought to you by George Poulos merch. So I just released this beautiful journal that I'm absolutely in love with. It's the Aware of It All journal. So a big theme on my journey of meditation has been cultivating the awareness perspective, the perspective that when there are sensations like anxiety or racing thoughts or stress or depression, something that you can do right away when you meditate is tap into that awareness perspective. Realize that these are things you're aware of. That instantaneously creates a separation that has been so tremendously powerful for me. I mean, that's really what got me hooked on meditation. It was the disidentification with my anxiety. It was the realization that I can sit there in meditation and watch my anxiety, and therefore it's not me. That's just a little bit about what inspired this design. I also think it's stunning. Also, something that I'm going to talk about in this episode is my first week of meditation teacher training. It's super exciting. This is the journal that I'm personally using to write my notes during this class, so this is becoming super sacred for me. And you can buy one of your own to support me and this work and this podcast. So that's at georgepoulos.com/store. Link is also in the description. I may or may not also put this design on a t-shirt and or a hoodie because I just think it would look really beautiful. So when you check the store, you'll see that if that's there. And if it's not there and you want that, leave a comment or send me a message. Okay, love you. Let's get into the episode. Okay, it's time to do my ritual of not being sure whether I want my headphones on or not. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the George Poulos Podcast. I really did not mean for it to be this long. I think the last episode at this point was maybe 2 months ago. If you're new here, I've basically stumbled into this podcast where I'm just providing really honest updates about my own spiritual journey, my own journey of meditation, about learning from various spiritual thinkers. A lot of this is intertwined with things I'm learning and experiencing in my own life. And I'm experiencing something really profound right now. And it's what has pushed me back into this form of expression, which until this new experience began, I was really overthinking this kind of expression. I was really confused what the point was. I was confused whether I was doing the right thing, whether I had any authority to speak about this sort of thing. I was very fearful of judgment from others, the way that I came across to other people. It's really interesting because I feel like when I was really in the swing of this podcast, I really felt like I had things figured out. I was really deep in my meditation practice. Insights were coming left and right. I was so confident to sit here and speak on camera and speak into the microphone about what I was learning. And I was so sure that it was going to help people. And I was unafraid to post it all on social media. And I was just going for it. I was just, all this expression was flowing outwards, coming right out of my heart, bursting out. And then I don't really know exactly what happened. It was kind of a slow process of curling back in and becoming more afraid and becoming really self-conscious and becoming very doubtful and becoming very confused and, losing it, just totally losing it. And just totally slipping back into darkness and totally slipping back into my old ways of assuming the solutions to my problems were on the outside of me. like, oh, maybe this podcast isn't the right thing I should be doing. Maybe happiness and peace and tranquility will come when I do X, Y, Z. It doesn't really matter what you fill in the blanks with, but maybe I need a different job. Maybe I didn't move to the right place. Something out there in the world needs to be sorted correctly because something's wrong, so I must need to manipulate the world outside of me in order to find happiness again. That's the trap that I transcended, I believe, temporarily. And it's the trap I fell back into. And I didn't really even know that I had slipped hard until I started this meditation teacher training that I'm taking now. And I almost sabotaged that too, because when you're thinking in that really negative way, self-sabotage is really common. Like, oh, what am I doing? Why would I take this meditation class? It costs money. I feel like I already know a lot about meditation. What am I even going to learn? This is probably not the right direction I want to take my life in. What if I don't like it? And then I'm going to be mad that I have to do this thing every weekend. What about parties on the weekends? These are all these doubts my mind was throwing. All these fears and hesitations to take this plunge that, if you have been listening to this podcast for a while, I've been speaking for a long time about wanting to do some sort of meditation teacher training, yoga teacher training, something like that. And I slipped so bad. I fell off the path so intensely, and really have been possibly the most anxious and depressed I've ever been in my life. Not that you need to really rank how bad your various bouts of anxiety and depression have been. Because what pushed me into meditation in the first place was extreme anxiety. And I didn't call it that at the time, but probably depression too. So meditation at first really pulled me out of that, really showed me another way. And then I passionately shared my findings on here. And as I was passionately sharing my findings on here, there was an in and out. There was a wave of feeling really connected to this thing called meditation. And there were points of feeling really disconnected from it, but there was a long time where I showed up for this podcast either way. But this latest slip was a deeper one, and I was really doubted. I was not sure I would ever come back to the podcast. I was not sure I was going to follow through with the meditation teacher training. I really pushed it to the last minute. I waited to confirm everything to the last minute I possibly did. And I even feel like when I finally pushed that button to officially sign up and everything, it was like, I was just like, oh, fuck it. All right, I'm going to do it. Like, what else am I going to do? I'm depressed anyway. I might as well do something. It's interesting how my low pushed me into meditation in the first place. And it was another low that pushed me to take a meditation teacher training program. And it's so enticing. It's so enticing because many of us were raised to believe this. It's so enticing to slip back into, maybe it's not maybe meditation is not the answer. Maybe I really just do need a bigger apartment. Or maybe I really just do need to find the perfect romantic partner. Or maybe I really just do need like $10,000 more a year. It's really, really enticing, seductive to slip into that mindset. Extremely seductive. And I've been meditating now I'm a pandemic meditator. So it's been over 3 years, approaching 4. And it's still really seductive to me. And you could probably sense that if you go back in the episodes, the way I was talking about moving apartments. I really fell for the illusion that once I moved apartments, everything was going to work out and I was going to be happy. I was going to finally have what I was looking for. But that's part of the same trap, and you have to be so careful with that. I think I can attach a term to this now. I'm learning a lot in this class. I believe this refers to what they call samsara. I could be wrong. It's day 3 or something. It's week 1. It's been 3 days. Samsara, in my understanding, and hopefully I have the correct word even. Samadhi is also floating around in my head, but that's more of a blissful thing. Samsara is the endless cycle of suffering induced by repeatedly chasing desire after desire after desire. And the apartment is a perfect example. Thinking about my own life, right? At some point, I've really wanted to move out of my parents' house, and I moved to Bushwick. And, I was so happy, so high. I was on my own doing my thing. But then that fulfilled desire lost its flavor. It's like eating a sour candy. Like eventually it loses its punch, and eventually you swallow it and it's not even there anymore. And then you want another sour candy. Samsara is like eating an endless bag of sour candies. That just came out of my brain. Oh. And I chewed up that first Bushwick apartment, and then it lost its flavor. So then I thought, to be happy, I think I need to pop another sour candy in my mouth. And then I moved to my second apartment in Bushwick, and then after a few years, that one lost its flavor. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to pop another sour candy in my mouth. And then I moved to this apartment. And I remember speaking in this microphone about how, I need this apartment. I need this. This is calling out to me. It's my intuition is taking me here. Maybe all true. But it's just another sour candy. That's not the stuff we're really looking for. It's not in the apartment. It's not in the partner. It's not in the amount of money in the bank account, right? What are we looking for? That's hard to describe with my words, but it's something that can be felt when you meditate. And it's why when I found meditation at that lower point in my life, when I was feeling really existentially anxious, really confused, why I wasn't happy yet after I had made this dream come true of being a big skate YouTuber. This deep existential dread. That's why when I found meditation after that low point mentally, that's why the curiosity remained. I was like, what is this? It feels like there's something here. It feels like there's something different here. And there is, and you can touch it in meditation. And I'm really grateful that I didn't fuck this up for myself, because I almost didn't press that button. And then I would have moved on from, oh shit, this apartment didn't make me happy. Maybe it's the job. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing at work. Then that's going to make me happy. That cycle of samsara, if you're not careful, will take you through to your death. You're going to chase things for the rest of your life until you die. So I think falling off the path, so I really got bruised up this time. This was not a trip, this was a fall. But then finding it again, I think the bird's eye view of that is that losing the path and then finding it again and feeling the beauty again, hopefully this lesson will stay with me. And the lesson is, okay, George, stay with meditation. Keep meditating, please, for the love of God, for the love of Buddha. Something we've learned in class already is that when you're guiding a meditation experience, it actually is important to set up your space and create a container for students to feel like they can let go of their usual worries, like they can enter a meditative state. That's why I've got Ram Dass with us over here to my right. And I'm looking at a little statue thing of the Buddha over here. Real human beings who achieved incredible states of mind are here with us while I'm recording. I've learned so much already. Thank you all for your patience with me. I hope you're still here. I hope you've been meditating this whole time while I haven't been. I really do hope that you have been. And if you've also fallen off the path like me, and if you've been getting banged up and bruised up, I invite you to step back on. It's as easy as that, right? It's just like when you're meditating. I love this metaphor. It's just like when you're meditating. It's not a failure when you get distracted and you forget that you're meditating. It's not a failure when you're sitting there in your perfect meditation posture, but your mind is thinking about what's for dinner tonight. It's not a failure. Once you catch it, you can instantaneously bring yourself back to your meditation focus, like the breath or whatever it is that you were meditating upon. It's not a failure. So too with the dharmic path in general. Once you catch it, you can step right back on. It's just one step away. It's always one step away. You just step right back on. What a relief. It's not this big crazy thing to realign with meditation or Buddhism or spirituality or whatever word you like. You just step right back on. For me, I mean, taking this class is a big help, but it could be just hopping right back into your meditation routine. It's like over time you slowly develop a narrative of like why you don't need to meditate and it's not important and there's better things to focus about. And over time that forms into this big calloused thing and you're not even thinking about sitting down on the cushion anymore. But once you catch that and you see what you've been doing there, just pop your damn cushion down and sit down for a meditation. Can you feel what I'm feeling? I can't believe it. I'm really happy. Fear it's a big deal. I've been really afraid these past few months. I feel like I've been hiding Like I've been scared to show up as myself, not only on this podcast and on the internet, but among loved ones. So when I showed up to this meditation teacher training for the first day, I quickly felt that I didn't need to hide anymore, at least in that environment. And I think I'm still in a process of learning how to not be afraid in all environments. But in that environment, I quickly felt like it was okay. And I just cracked. And I saw someone else crack, and just the emotions flowing out, and so I did too. And I had a great nice big cry during that first day. During a meditation, it felt so good to not be afraid about people seeing me cry. That's an example of showing yourself. If a flood of emotion comes and you just let it come out, that's very brave. It's a very brave thing to do. It's not normal to do that here. So it's very brave. I don't like hiding. I don't like putting walls up. It does something really harmful to my soul and to my mental health when I do that. But sometimes I'm just so afraid that I don't know how to show up. The first step feels impossible. Community helps. I've learned that firsthand. Our teacher gave us an example of, I forgot what he was even talking about, but the example was, it's easy to snap one pencil. One pencil can snap. All it takes is one person to insult you, and that pencil snaps. All it takes is one doubtful thought passing by, and that pencil snaps. But if you have 25 pencils, that passing thought of doubt or fear, that random insult from a stranger on the internet, even that conditioning from your parents or your society, it doesn't have the power to snap 25 pencils. Have you ever tried? It just doesn't work. You can't break them. So I think community is important. And I actually finally feel, and I wish that I didn't need external validation for this, but I think that I finally understand why what I'm doing here on this podcast is important. And it's because it's not just me talking to myself in my room, it's me talking to people. And it makes sense for me that this is the first way that I started to step out of my fear, because I'm so comfortable with creating content, right? I've been doing my YouTube channel forever. So I'm used to this. So all I had to take was the step of starting to speak more honestly about what I was going through. And there's no people in front of me. So I'm used to talking to the camera. There's no people there. I don't have to impress anyone right away. A lot of the times when I'm editing, then that fear comes in, because then I'm really perceiving the people. But you all out there, you're an important part of this. And I'm feeling your presence now as I'm recording. So it's cool. It's cool to be participating in an environment where it's very clear that I don't need to be afraid. I don't think I've ever felt that so clearly in my life. And I hope that this experience trains me to be fearless everywhere. But obviously, I'm grateful to have this container. Very grateful. So what I may do is get back into weekly podcasts. We'll see. I don't want to make promises, but I think that's what I want to do. And I think I may just share like I just did. I may just share very from the heart about what's going on. I guess that's what this podcast used to be. But now I'm feeling ready to do it again. And I may just tell you the things that I learned specifically or experienced specifically in this class that are at the forefront of my mind. So I can really not instantly, but a few days after learning really important and profound lessons, I can just transmit them right onto you. So you can get a flavor of this class indirectly through me. Our teacher made a great comment, and I don't know why I feel weird about saying names. The class is at 3 Jewels in New York City, and our teacher's name is Hector Marcel. There's many teachers, lots of TAs, but he's the person up there at the middle speaking to us the most. Hector made a great comment that I really appreciated because this is something I've been self-conscious about for a long time. Like a lot of the time when I sit down to record and speak about meditation, whether to the podcast or to people in my life, I notice that I'm so often just regurgitating something I've already been taught. It is being like funneled through my heart. Like it's through my heart understanding, and then I try to explain it. But a lot of the times the words are similar even. Because whatever teacher I learned whatever lesson from that I'm trying to explain, sometimes that teacher's words hit so well that I don't choose, it just happens. I'm using like very similar words to try to explain the same things to others. And the self-consciousness, right, is, I'm copying. I'm not being original. But who gives a shit? These are lessons that can change your life. These are lessons that can change your mind and make you happier. So who gives a shit? That's me to myself, okay? Basically, Hector said, like, I didn't make any of this stuff up. This is all coming from people that taught me. And that's how it goes. And here's the first thing I'll share with you about something specific that I learned this weekend in class. And it's that, and I didn't know this, I really thought that I knew a lot about meditation and Buddhism. I was wrong. So, Buddhists are very nerdy and they like to keep good records. And so the Buddhists keep track of lineages, teacher to teacher to teacher to teacher lineages. So a lot of the times a Buddhist teacher will identify with a lineage. And what that means is that the person who taught him, how do I phrase this? Like the teacher had a teacher who had a teacher who had a teacher who had a teacher, ... whose teacher was the Buddha, is my understanding, right? So these teacher to teacher to teacher relationships are tracked down generation after generation after generation. So this Buddhist knowledge that we're learning from whatever teacher we're learning it from, it's not that teacher who's made something up out of nowhere. It's this thing that has been continually taught down and down and down and down, right? And so one teacher has this experience of, I'm out of breath, hold on. Sometimes I forget to breathe. So let's say the Buddha had this experience of enlightenment. He teaches someone how to achieve that state of mind. That teacher gets it. That teacher gets enlightened. Now that teacher can teach the next person and the next person. And none of this is to say you need to be enlightened in order to begin teaching. In fact, and this is really repeated a lot in A Course in Miracles, which is one of my inspirational texts. In fact, to continue learning, there is a point where you must begin teaching. And I suppose if I'm taking a meditation teacher training, I must be at that point. So that's pretty cool. I do still have like some imposter syndrome, but it's getting better. Really what I practiced this weekend was having fear and doing the thing anyway. So my biggest one was presenting is very common in this class. We're always getting into groups and brainstorming something, and then someone has to present to the wider class. So I procrastinated that as long as I could. Really, I still actually haven't spoken to the whole class yet. I'm too afraid. But finally I did everyone had to do like a guided meditation and an introduction to meditation in a smaller group. So finally I got to face that fear. And what I learned through that halfway through, and I was so nervous and my heart was beating and my voice felt shaky. And halfway through that, I was like, I actually calmed down while I was speaking to people and trying something new. And what I felt in that moment, what I took away from that is that, and I think some of the TAs and guest speakers and other students maybe said this directly as well, but you can have your fear and your doubts and you can be nervous and you can go for it anyway. You can show up anyway. And what a lot of people did is admitted that they were nervous. And something happens when you admit that you're nervous and that group like accepts your nervousness. Something happens when you like admit that you're nervous, and when those people around you are supportive and like accept your nervousness, it somehow dissipates, and it's really cool. I had this moment where I was like, what if all my fears dropped away? Seriously, what if my fears dropped away? What if I stopped being afraid to speak to people? What if I did take my walls down? What if I could walk outside every day with no walls? What if all my fears were gone? And then a new fear popped up. Then it's like, holy shit, then I actually have to go out there and try to change the world and try to be my full self. But that's the first time I felt that. What if all my fears could go away? And I feel like it's possible that they can. I had like a really physical experience of feeling like, whoa, like, what if all my fears went away? Okay, keep breathing. So that's the one thing I wanted to share, like the nerdy Buddhist lineage thing that they track all that. That's pretty cool because for my first 3 years of meditation, it was me listening to Sam Harris on the Waking Up app. And then for 2 years, it was me completely by myself. And I didn't really fully understand that meditation is this wisdom that has literally, and it's even been tracked. It's been passed down from person to person to person and eventually made its way to me somehow. But this idea just kind of grounded it for me. It's like, oh, there's this tangible thing that I can track. People are reaching these states of mind. Somehow it's reached me. These teachings have reached me. It's simple, actually, when you think about it that way. But for my first 3 years, meditation was just this, oh, it's just this thing. It should help with my mental health. It should do all these things. And then I got really deep into it and I was having all these crazy like psychedelic experiences and fears were dissipating and and my identity was expanding and my identity was disappearing, I think it was a little overwhelming to deal with on my own. And I didn't quite know what to do with all this. And, thankfully this teacher training, it's an environment where, and this is brave for me. So shout out to me. People are being vulnerable. And I was like, shit, I should be vulnerable too. Like, now is the time. And I was. And like, I remember the first things that came out of my mouth. It was like, I was like in a shaky voice. I was like, yeah, I've been meditating for a long time. And keep in mind, I'm coming out of this really low period. And I'm like, I'm just like really confused. And I think I said something really incoherent with a shaky voice. And I remember people just looking at me and nodding their heads like with love. And like normally when something would come out like that, then that would make me contract even more. But just to see like, and I don't even remember what anyone said, because I think it just went to the next person to share. It was like a circle like that. But to not feel the need to contract after being vulnerable is really a beautiful feeling. What was I talking about? Oh my God. So then the other thing that I learned, and this weekend was really all about like, we were learning how to teach people and also learning ourselves what is meditation, right? So if we were to lead a class, how do we tell people what is meditation? As we were learning about this stuff, we had a specific unit on posture. Now, I thought I had my meditation posture figured out. This cool half lotus. It's sick. I was wrong. Compared to my last episode, I'm in a much better posture now. And here's the main thing. And I'm going to really just channel Hector here. This is not me. When you're meditating, the goal is to park the body. You want your body to be so still, so relaxed, that you don't have to think about it at all whatsoever. So you can pinpoint your focus on the mind. So more or less through my years of meditating, like I know I'm supposed to be still, I'm supposed to be grounded, I'm supposed to have my spine straight, and I'm supposed to focus on the breath or do whatever it is I'm doing in meditation. But for all these 4 years, 3-4 years, if I felt some discomfort in my body, I would just like wiggle it. I would just like wiggle it a little bit. And I was just like adjust and shake it out. That means you're not as deep in meditation as you should be. To really go as deep as you can in meditation, you've forgotten your body. And that's not to say if you don't completely forget your body every single time you meditate, you're failing. But we learned little tips with our posture. And literally, I just like experimented with my posture a little bit, and I found this different position where my knees are completely on the ground. My half lotus isn't like quite as extreme. I'm actually kind of like more in this like folded, like my foot is now more in between my thigh and my calf, which is a little different. I can't remember what I used to do, but it wasn't quite like this. And with the intention of finding a position that I can really sink into, I've gone even deeper into meditation. And now when I feel a little bit of discomfort, the first thing I do is not move my body and correct it. The first thing I do is pull myself right back to the focus of the meditation, which for me is usually the breath. instead of adjusting the body, right? So I've noticed already this morning, if I feel a little discomfort and I'm in my better position. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you haven't nailed your meditation posture, keep tinkering with it. I think I made the mistake of settling in with something that I thought was cool, but it wasn't perfect for me. Sorry, I keep forgetting to breathe. So keep tinkering with it. And then what I experienced this morning is that if I feel a little discomfort and I just pull my focus back to my breath, I can get right back into that meditation without adjusting the body. So that's cool. I just like didn't quite know just how important it was to lose it, to really, you really want to pinpoint your focus on your mind and whatever it is you're intending to focus on. So posture is more important than I thought, and that's something that I learned that is allowing me already in one session to get deeper into my meditation. So that's cool, and I wanted to share that. Circling it back to the beginning and the fear I slipped into and being afraid to express myself on this podcast about my journey, for example. Another thing is I was definitely afraid to admit that I had slipped off. I was like, oh shit, I can't record the podcast. Like I'm not doing well. I can't. I was afraid to say that. I was afraid. It was a lot going on. Circling it back to the beginning. It's okay to show up and fail. Really. I promise. So I needn't be afraid. I'm always afraid that I'm going to sit down and record and the podcast is going to be a failure in some way or another. So, but I needn't be afraid to show up and fail, because that's how you improve. So I encourage you to get back into your meditation practice. I know there's a few of you who it's been a while for. And I also encourage you to go fail at something this week. I'll keep you guys posted on this I'll keep you guys posted on this meditation teacher training journey. Hopefully with the weekly podcast. I know I'm very unreliable on this podcast, but I'll keep you posted. Follow along. Remember to support Buy the Journal. I appreciate it. And yeah, I love you.